about, because we have been covering the book of Acts on Wednesday nights. What's the theme? What would you say, having read diligently Acts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this Jesus who you crucified, I've underlined it again, verse 36, whom you... And he looks up and expects to receive alms from them because Peter says, look at us. Early preaching. Well, it depends on what perspective I guess you're looking at it from. Because in chapter 2, the first sermon's preached, and how many people were added to the church? Just these. The Sanhedrin. How did they respond? How did gospel preaching make them feel? What's you to be there at daybreak? How many people would be there to hear it? 3? You know, maybe your grandma comes because she loves you, but ain't nobody else coming. You know, no, they went in the temple at daybreak and started to teach. Now, what do you think? You know, this is an easy question. What do you think the reaction of the Sanhedrin is? Now, it's almost funny in a way, because meanwhile, the next clip we're going to look at, you know, back at Sanhedrin headquarters, because where does the Sanhedrin think they are right now? To have them brought. And I'm sure they have an idea that right now, the captain of the God of our fathers raised Jesus, whom you killed by hanging Him on a tree. God, whom God has given to them that obey Him. Well, even, you know, if you could put your hand over the next verse. Paul is converted, chapter 9, and he retells his conversion in 22 and 26. And remember how he begins making his defense? Acts 22:3, he says, brothers, addressing his Hebrew kinsmen in the flesh, brothers, he says, I was born in Tarsus of Cilicia. He says, but I was raised in this city. I was raised in Jerusalem at the feet of Gamaliel. So Gamaliel was Paul's teacher. Now this is something that's real interesting to me, and I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll wait on that. Just keep that in mind. Saul is his pupil. Saul sat at his feet. Gamaliel was reputed to be the greatest teacher of his day. The greatest teacher. He was known for his fair-mindedness. He was one of the few Pharisees that did not object to Grecian culture. The Pharisees did not want Greek culture infiltrating, you know, Hebraism, Jewish life. Well, what's Gamaliel say? Look at verse 30. Men of Israel, you better be careful. Take heed what you're about to do with these men. And he gives 2 examples. He says, before these days, he says, one Theudas rose up. Theudas. We don't know anything about him. There were a lot of people named Theudas in the old days. It was just a common name. He rose up. Now, I've highlighted this. This stood out to me. He rose up claiming to be somebody. Oh, Theudas thought he was something, didn't he? Claiming to be somebody. And a number of men, about 400, followed him. What happened to Theudas? He was killed. Right? And all who followed him were dispersed, and what? Came to nothing. I've highlighted that. So keep away from these. Isn't it amazing how in the temple and from house to house? Is that, Alan, when I read that, I thought, is that where Alan got? Not, he won't tell me. House to house, it is. Let's just Did Paul go back and try to talk to his old teacher and try to convince him? You remember, if it is from a secret Christian, if there be